Most of the time, the proceedings involve just three protagonists. They often meet in hotels, somewhere in the world. Usually, all of them are lawyers. Huge amounts of money are on the table when a company wants compensation from a government. That is the backdrop and script for a court of arbitration. Nikos Lavranos often is one of these lawyers. He wants more protection for investors in business deals between the EU and the US.
Everybody who lost his property wants to get compensation for it, and that is what international arbitration does.
Some of Lavranos' colleagues recently won a major case at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. The court ruled that Russia has to pay around $50 billion to the former owners of oil giant Yukos for breaking up the company in the 1990s. It's the court's biggest settlement ever. As more and more investor protection treaties are signed worldwide, the number of lawsuits is also growing dramatically. But the number of lawyers involved is small, and they regularly switch sides. In one case, a lawyer might represent a country, while in the next, he's the arbitrator or investor counsel, all out of the public eye.
In many cases, the states do not want to have the proceedings public. And sometimes it is also better to find an amicable solution if it's not public. It's easier for the state, and it's also easier for the investor. So there are also advantages not to have it public.
Peter Fuchs from the NGO PowerShift doesn't agree, and many other non-profit initiatives in the EU don't like the current setup.
These proceedings take place outside legal frameworks, and the three arbitrators have enormous power, but they're not bound to adhere to laws passed by democratically elected bodies. That poses a huge danger to democracy. One example, look at Germany's law to phase out nuclear energy, passed after a long democratic process. What if arbitrators suddenly decide energy companies have to be compensated?
The German parliament passed that law in June 2011. Now, Swedish energy company Vattenfall is demanding 3.7 billion euros in compensation from the German government. The case has been before an arbitration court in Washington for about 2 years. It has so far cost German taxpayers around 1.2 million euros, mostly lawyer fees.
Lawyers earn vast sums on these cases. They milk them for millions.
In comparison with a couple of billions, to pay 10 million legal fees is not so much.
And the arbitrators' decisions have the force of law. More than half of all the lawsuits are won by investors. But one of the parties involved in arbitration wins every time: the lawyers.